Hi guys, Yacca here. So we are undertaking part 11 of the card review for Scholomance Academy, and this is going to be the last one. I will be reviewing neutral cards that I haven't reviewed before, and these cards that I'll be reviewing is mostly from the card dump that we saw, or we had a few days ago, and these will be a little bit more quick fire. I'll do them really fast for some of the cards. You'll see the stars rating, and there will be some that I just talk a little bit more about, but they will be a little bit shorter in nature out of these remaining cards. But let's head on in and see what kind of cards we have installed for us. Alright, first up we have the Intrepid Initiate. It's a 1 mana card with a 1 attack, 2 health, and has spell burst, gain +2 attack. So essentially what you do is that you have a 1 drop, and for the cost of a spell, which does something of course, you can make this into a 2 drop. It's not really going to be strong enough to see any kind of play in Constructed, but it's going to be a quite fine arena card. Having 1 drops in arena are perfectly fine, and the possibility to turn those into the 2 drops we can do value trades on 2 mana costs cards and above is actually quite fine in arena. So 3 stars for arena and 1 star for Constructed. Then we have the Sneaky Delinquent, which is a 2 mana minion with 3 attack and 1 health. And it has stealth, including Death Rattle, where you add a 3/1 ghost with stealth to your hand. And it's the Spectral Delinquent, as you can see here. The application for this one in Constructed are quite narrow. It can be if you're on a budget, stuff like that, and you could use that maybe in some kind of stealth deck, but it's not really all that strong, so it needs a lot of support for this to be good in Constructed, so I'll rate it 2 stars there. But for arena, having a 2 drop that you can turn into another 2 drop, like a value kind of game, that's actually quite powerful. So you have something you do in turn 2, and then you have half of a turn 4, or something that you might be able to do on turn 3 coming up, and that's actually quite good for arena. So there is going to be 4 stars. Then we have a common card for 2 mana. You get a 2/2, and it has the Battlecry that you add a 1-cost spell to your class from your class to your hand. For Constructed, this is probably going to be, it is going to be a little bit too random for something that you want to run. The wide range of 1-cost spells in most classes are going to be in a way that you can't really account for a game plan like that. So in Constructed, I only rated 2 stars. It's probably not going to be strong enough to see play. But in arena, getting these additional resources is actually quite powerful, and lets you smooth out curves, and the curves, the edging out victories is really important in arena, and therefore I do see Wantmaker as making more of an impact there, and it's going to be 4 stars for arena. We have the Enchanted Cauldron, which is an epic card, and for 3 mana you get 7 points of stats, which is actually quite good from a vanilla test point of view. It's just the effect that it has is spell burst, and it casts a random spell of the same cost. So you really have to have a specific game plan with a specific type of spell, probably for you to do anything that is resembling a strategy in Constructed. And the random effects are many times going to hurt you just as much as that'll hurt your opponent. And having this random effect is not something specifically to strive for in Constructed. Therefore, I only rated 1 star for Constructed. However, on the other side, for arena, it could be a little bit more powerful, because just having these spell effects will sometimes give you an out, or allow you to swing something back in your favor where you were kind of at a disadvantage before. So I see a little bit more use for it in arena, but it's not going to be a strong card there either, but an interesting card definitely, and will provide you some situations which are quite fun, most likely. So a fun card, an interesting card, not too strong as it is right now. We have another common card for 4 mana. It's called the Divine Rager. And it's going to be a 5 attack, 1 health card with Divine Shield. For constructed, having this one where you can use a hero power and or maybe 2 small minions to get rid of a 4-drop, that's not really going to be what you seek, and it doesn't really have that much stopping potential because there's no taunt or anything that blocks any kind of damage. So it's just gonna sit there, and it'll let your opponent do a bunch of stuff, which is going to be quick to deal with. But for Arena, it's a little bit different. Just it'll soak up a bunch of different board tension and will trade into and up on the 4-cost slot. So it's going to be a really powerful Arena card, as opposed to Constructed, where I rate 1 star and 4 stars for Arena. Next one we have is the Fishy Flyer. The Fishy Flyer is a 4 mana card which has 4 attack and 3 health, and it has Rush and Death Rattle. Add a 4/3 Ghost with Rush to your hand, and it's the Spectral Flyer, as you can see here. And it also has the Murloc Tribe. I do see a bit of applicability in maybe some kind of Murloc deck. How good Murlocs is going to be going forward, I'm not 100% sure of that, and it's more mid-range in its nature than the usual very early game Murloc kind of swarm approach. I'm not even sure it's going to find a good spot in a Murloc deck. However, for Arena, having a Rush card, which generates another card that you can rush again, that's such a powerful effect, and going to be 4 stars for Arena and 2 stars for Constructed. Next one is the Ogremancer, 5 mana card which has 3 attack and 7 health, so it's gonna be a sturdy minion. And the vanilla stat line lights up. It's 10 points of stats for 5 mana, and whenever your opponent casts a spell, summon a 2/2 skeleton with taunt. So it really stops or delays or messes up your opponent's turn when playing spells. This is probably not going to be strong enough that this 2/2 skeleton is going to matter too much in Constructed. So it's going to be a really narrow use case there, and I only rated 2 stars for Constructed. However, for Arena, just doing this will really mess up your opponent's game plan. It's not going to be those all-powerful spells that you do see in Constructed. So it's going to really block off a good portion of your opponent's gameplay of trying to use different spells in order to maybe edge the board back in his or her favor. So definitely a strong disruption card for the Arena. See the wrist skeleton here? So 2 stars for Constructed and 5 stars for Arena. Then we have a 6 mana card called a Smok Senior with 5 attack and 7 health, so the vanilla stat line test adds up. It has taunt, so therefore it's a really powerful minion as well, and also has Death Rattle that you add a 5/7 Ghost to your hand. It's the Spectral Senior, as you can see here. It is great that you have a card like this that you can generate on turn 6 through evolve effects and stuff like that. It's great that it's in the game. I just don't really see that it's going to do enough for 6 mana, that it's somewhat late in the game that you get this. So there's really going to be like a heavy focus on trying to hold off aggressive pressure. Then there's actually the need for Smok Senior, and you could see this run in decks, but that's a very specific meta case, and it's probably not going to be what we see coming into this. I'm putting myself out on a limb here saying it's a 1-star. You're not going to see it in play. It's great that it's there. You can generate it. However, for Arena, having this one as a solid, really solid turn 6 play, which does something on the board as you play it, because it does have taunt, dictates some traits. That's powerful for Arena. It's a powerful card, and I rate it 4 stars for Arena. Then we have a 5-mana beast, the Lake Thresher, with 4 attack and 6 health. The card states that whenever this one attacks the Lake Thresher, it also damages the minions next to whomever this attacks. So it's kind of a swipe effect whenever you attack something with it. It doesn't have rush, it's not going to do anything right away. I did notice, however, I'm not sure how strong it's going to be. I didn't rate it all that high, but Guardian Animals, the spell for Hunter and Druid, allows you to push out 5-cost beasts and give them rush. So if it's going to see some play, it could be in a deck where that spell and this minion comes together. It needs a bunch of more support than this one combination, so it might not be strong enough to see play, but there's some use case for this. So I'm going to rate it 2 stars for Constructed, because there is a chance that it'll do something. But this effect on the other side in Arena is strong, solid, a 5-drop, and it allows you to really affect the board, because you can attack multiple minions all at once. So definitely for me a strong 4-star card in Arena. Then we have a 0-mana 1/1 card, Desk Imp Demon. Sure, I don't think it's going to do enough. Sometimes we've played 0-mana minions in some decks to combo-enable stuff like cards that require this. I just think for both game modes, the impact of this card is not going to be high enough. Then we have a 4-mana card, a Crimson Hothead, and it has quite a solid stat line, like it's 9 points of stats for 4 mana. And it has a spell burst effect that you gain +1 attack and taunt whenever you activate the spell burst. And it is also a dragon. So it's great that it's the dragon pool. It's a solid 4-statted minion. It's just not going to see a constructive play, because if you want to have a 4-drop which has taunt, you don't want to do a 2-card combination on that. You just want to play 4-cost minions that actually has taunt. So therefore, it's not going to see solid constructed play. Again, it's a fine card. It's great that it's in the pool. However, a little bit different from Arena, this is still going to be strong, because even though you don't get the taunt and you don't have consistent spells, just having a solid minion that will clean up the early game, that's a perfectly fine and a solid stats for a 4-cost minion. And having this upside of increasing the attack and providing taunt, that's just perfect. So a good card you don't mind picking at all in Arena. Then we have the Plagued Protodrake. It's an 8-mana minion with 8/8 in stats, and it's a dragon. And it states that it has a death rattle where you summon a random 7-cost minion. Of course, random 7-cost minions are not as strong as something you want to play, but the important thing here is that you do not get it back in the hand. You have to play it. It just gets summoned on the board. And it works with other death rattle synergies, where you might copy a death rattle eventually. So I think the effect behind the Plague Protodrake, it's not going to be something that is game-breaking and constructed, but it's going to be powerful enough that there's a good chance you could see play in some kind of value-oriented decks. So definitely something that could make it into the meta game. It is a bit more support. It's not like an archetype carrier on its own, but strong enough that it'll do something, and it's going to be awkward removing. This could see some kind of play in constructed. For Arena, I rate 4 stars. It is definitely, the only drawback behind the card is that it's a solid turn 8 play, but you're not doing anything with it as you drop it. If it had some kind of initiative, it would be an easy 5-star card. But with that minimal shortcoming of the card, I still rate it 4 stars for Arena. Then we have Robes of Protection. It's a 3-mana rare card with 2 foreign stats. So it just passes the vanilla test, even though it's not strong for 3-drops that you see nowadays. But it has the effect that your other minions have that you can't be targeted by spells and hero powers. This is quite an interesting effect, but the investment that you have to do in order to remove Robes of Protection, I deem that as low enough that it's not going to see any significant kind of play. It might be a really fringe case where you need this to counter a deck which is very much about targeting your minions individually instead of doing board clears. And of course there it might find some usability in the meta, but the chance for it is low, and therefore I only rated 2 stars for Constructed. But for Arena, it's an okay 3-drop. It's not great. You would much rather want 3 4s and 4 3s than the Robes of Protection, because like if you have a 4-3, you could just trade into the Robes of Protection. It will still leave a 4-1 behind, and therefore from the 3 spot kind of view is not strong enough. But in a tight spot where you need 3-drops, it'll pass as an okay 3-drop, which will do what it's supposed to do, and work as a somewhat solid turn 3 play in Arena. So 3 stars just because it's it has the stats and the mana cost that does have 3 stars for Arena. Rush has proven to be really good in the game, and therefore I actually do see that the animated broomstick, which is a 1-mana 1/1 with Rush, can have its field day, because it also has a Battlecry that states it gives your other minions Rush. So board-centric play, like swarm decks and stuff like this, where you push out a bunch of minions and you want to give them initiative, having this 1-mana card is what can support this archetype. It's actually why you have Flying Carpet being played, where you can give your 1-cost minions Rush and then they'll do something. Animated Broomstick will allow you to just edge that one up just a little bit, because you can play that in unison with other stuff and they will have initiative. So it lets you push something a little bit different, and I think this could actually make so that you'll see the Animated Broomstick get some kind of play in Constructor. So I actually rated 3 stars. It needs some support, needs the right deck, but it could actually see some kind of play. This effect about giving whatever you drop Rush in Arena is completely crazy, because having like a significant or 2 significant minions in the late game and then pushing the Animated Broomstick together with them, with the late game potential of that, dictating trades, that's a really a powerful effect in Arena. So, to me, it has early and late game potential and is a 4-star card for Arena. Then we have the Tour Guide. It's a 1-mana 1/1 card with a Battlecry that your next hero power costs 0. So if you drop this on turn 1 and you want to wait with your hero power for whatever reason, it could be that you're a mage and there's no minions on the opposing side, you just drop the Tour Guide, and then when your opponent drops something on the next turn, your hero power still costs 1. As you can see, I rated 1 star in Constructed. The effect is really good, definitely. However, the synergies around using your hero power is not available at the moment, but in future expansions, and probably also in WoW, where you do have hero powers mattering in some of the cards, then you have the potential to see a card that you will definitely include in decks. I just think right now it doesn't really have a good suit. However, hero powers are great to use in Arena. So getting a free dagger as rogue, so you can actually even do 2 things on turn 2, or dropping 2 1-drops if you're paladin on turn 1. that's actually quite powerful and worth running as a viable early game option. So I definitely rate it 3 stars for Arena, and it's something that you could definitely see yourself running as part of a draft in the Arena. Then we have the Steward of Scrolls. It's a 5-mana card with 4/4 stat line. So it's not really passing the vanilla test, but it does have spell damage +1, so and a Battlecry where you discover a spell. So it's a discover effect, which is powerful. So the card in itself is a solid card, and it with this effect, it might see some kind of play in if you have a spell damage mage being a thing. Um, I do deem this as unlikely. It does several things, so it could make sense in a deck like this, but as you've seen over the course of the remainder of my reviews, I haven't given all that much love to the spell damage mage, and therefore I'm going to have to review that afterwards and say, well, I was probably wrong, or maybe I'm right, who knows, but I'm sticking to my guns here and saying spell damage mage and stuff like this is probably not going to be strong enough that you'll see play, and that's kind of where I could see this fit in, and then I do not think it's going to be strong enough in the archetype. The card in itself is strong, however, and it's a good print for the set. And because it's such a strong card, then it does have a great applicability in Arena. And there I do rate it 4 stars because it is something that and it's a common card. It's crazy. It's just short of, I would deem it 5 stars. This is such a powerful card in the Arena, which does a bunch of stuff. So definitely, if you need your 5-drop, this could be the card for you. A very, very strong card. Then we have the Voracious Reader. It's a 2-mana, 1 attack, 3 health minion, which has the effect that at the end of your turn, draw until you have 3 cards. So it's only going to be an effect for you. This is not a strong card from a vanilla standpoint, and therefore I do, however, rate it 4 stars because this could be a replenishment card for some other decks than what Warlock usually does. Warlock, with this Zoo Swarm approach, puts a bunch of stuff on the board, empties the hand, and then starts drawing with the hero power. Other classes can't do this because they don't have that hero power, but they do have the option now of replenishing their hand when they drop Voracious Reader as the last one. Then they have a refill of the hand, and then you can swarm again on the board, and therefore this could actually push some archetypes which are not viable or were not viable in the past to a state of play where this could actually see the light of day for other classes than just Warlock. 4 stars, I think this will be able to push some boundaries. However, for Arena, it's really about the stats because you are usually running mid-range decks. You don't really want to have the game plan of going so aggressive that you are emptying out your hand and need to replenish that. Of course, there might be the draft where this is viable, but then you're not going to pick Voracious Reader as one of the first cards. Now, unlikely, it needs a bunch of support for Arena for that specific draft to come together. So generally, it's a recommendation from my side. Pick another 2-drop. See if you can avoid Voracious Reader. It's not going to be all that great in the Arena. Then we have Mana Feeder Pantara. It's a 2-mana, 2/3 card, which is a solid stat line for a 2-drop. And it has the additional Battlecry that if you use your hero power this turn as you drop it, then you draw a card. So it's going to be on turn 4, whatever your hero power does, you drop a 2/3, and you draw a card. That's actually quite okay for turn 4. It's just many decks as they are right now and constructed want to do a lot more on turn 4. They want to push a game plan. They want to get rid of the board. They want to develop like 3 minions and stuff like that. So having like an intermediate play is not what many decks are looking for at the moment, and with the amount of powerful cards, it's probably not going to have a good home in a deck right now. I really think it's an awesome card, so it's a little bit... I would like to really see this work. However, there is a very good place for it, and that is in the arena. So even though I rated 1 star in constructed, it is a 4-star card for arena. You can drop this on turn 2, and you're not sad at all that you don't get the Battlecry off. And even on turn 4, having this one with all the effects that I just described is not a bad turn 4 play. If you missed your 4-drop, this is actually quite fine to do on turn 4, which allows you to get more resources for future turns. So solid card for arena. I am happy it's there. It's going to be a powerful card. So great arena card, not so much for constructed. So again, we have a card here where I might get to eat my words. So we have the Sorcerer Substitute. It's a 6-mana 6/6 with a Battlecry that if you do have spell damage, doesn't have to be a minion, but if you do have spell damage, you summon a copy of this. So you get 12 worth of stats for 6 mana if you do have spell damage. Sticking to my guns, saying spell damage text is not going to work as an archetype. If I'm wrong, I'm gonna eat my words, like I said with other cards as well. But altogether, even though there's a bunch of support, it just seems like I had an overview presented to me on how many spell damage cards are already there. And I do think this could be something down the line for an expansion later on, where the spell damage maybe works a little bit better together, stuff like that. I don't think that's quite enough for this to see play right now. I might be wrong, and as I said, then I'm gonna eat my words. But if I'm sticking to my gun saying it's not gonna see play, then I rate it 2 stars. And for the arena, it's an okay 6-drop. Again, you're not expecting the Battlecry to actually go off in the arena, because it's even rarer there to get consistent spell damage. But having that upside makes it a quite solid, okay 6-drop when you need to fill out the late game part of your draft as well. So, okay, good solid 3-star card for arena. Then we have a 3-mana epic card, and this is wow. So it's the Educated Alec, so an elephant which goes to the school. It's a 3-mana 3/4, and whenever a spell is played, this minion remembers it, and when the death rattle of the minion activates, you shuffle the spells into your deck. I think this is definitely a very powerful control card, because it lets you, in the control mirror matches, it lets you win out on these fatigue games where you want to draw through the whole deck, and then you just who actually dies from the damage first. This actually furthers that game plan, and you shuffle in additional resources, because it has, what I've seen, the gameplay that I've seen on the Alec is that it's when your opponent plays a spell, but it's also you when you play a spell. So you can kind of bank on different stuff to put on the Alec that you want to maybe use a little bit later on. And therefore, this could be a real powerhouse of stuff that you can play like 3 or 4 times. And that is, again, like I've talked about many times before, breaking some of the rules that is basic in the game. That's also what you want cards to do. It's not like that, but having like 3, 4, 5 copies of a card when deck building restrictions say that you can only have 2, that is powerful. It needs to be something where control decks is going to be good. It's not going to be something like an aggro deck can run. Yeah, you get some spells. Yeah, great. You shuffle it into the decks, and they're not going to really do anything in the hand right now. So it furthers a specific game plan. And that's why I rated 4 stars for constructed, because it's not going to be put in each and every deck, But for the control matchups, I think there's definitely something there. Also, it's an early minion, which might help you hold off a little bit of board pressure, even though you might not get any spells put on the Alec. It's still like a priority target for some of the board-centric players when you're up against some of those decks. On the other hand, for Arena, the downside there is not really something that is all that profound. So if you get the upside, immensely awesome, even though you don't get them in hand right away. So great that it's there, but just a solid 3-drop that you don't mind at all, just pushing on the board. And if you just get anything off this with the spells, doesn't matter. It's still going to be a good card to have on the board, and therefore I rate it 5 stars because it's solid with an immense upside for Arena. Then we have Keymaster Alabaster. Keymaster Alabaster is a 7-mana card which has the stats 6 attack and 8 health, so a little bit more of a sticky minion. He'll like to stick around on the board. The effect that he has, it's a lingering effect that whenever your opponent draws a card, you add a copy to your hand that costs just 1. This is really interesting because you guarantee that your opponent, unless your opponent is in fatigue, your opponent will draw a card that'll cost you just 1. So what might be a 1-mana card altogether. If your opponent draws a 1-mana card, that's fine. But it could also be like 7 or 8 or 9-mana card that your opponent draws, and then it's just going to be the effects of the full card. They're not going to be reduced or anything. It's just going to be costing 1 mana on your side. So it might not be something that suits with your deck or your game plan, but having this as something that generates resources for you in the control decks, that is so immensely powerful. So of course not going to be anything that you run in the aggressive decks, but you have maybe your mid-range decks, your Highlander decks, you have your control decks. Keymaster Alabaster is going to be something that gives you an edge. It needs to be something that is more or less hard removed from your opponent in order for you not to get a bunch of more resources. So definitely something that we'll see play in the control decks the way I see it, for some of the high meta decks. Only concern that could be some of the control decks are running towards those. So you need to manage your hand size, right? So many times you have like 8, 9 cards in hand. So if you have 9 cards in hand, your opponent draws a card, then you overdraw a card. So it needs to be something that doesn't constrict you whenever you do play him. But other than that, the effect is so powerful. Getting those mana discounts in Hearthstone is immensely powerful. The mana is a key resource. Whenever you can cheat stuff out, again, breaking some of the parameters of the game, that is a powerful effect, and this is what we get here. Same thing, you can actually more or less just take all the elements over to Arena, except that Arena are typically mid-range decks, but still getting these resources. And in Arena, there's even a chance that your opponent has to do this over multiple turns. There's a much higher chance for that. Therefore, there's a good chance in Arena you'll get even more out of Keymaster Alabaster. However, the legendary rarity, you won't see that all that much. But if you need a late game card and you get him off it, just grab him and put him into the deck. It's going to be some fun games when you do get, when you're fighting for board and you do push him to the board and your opponent has to need to remove him right away, and then you still get this one cost card from your opponent whenever you pass the turn over. So definitely 4 stars in both game modes. It'll see some kind of play, and I do expect that this is going to be a powerful card that we'll see for a while. So guys, that was part 11 of the card reviews, and we've seen all of them now. we have all the cards reviewed. We'll see how right or how wrong I were. I'm definitely gonna be wrong about a lot of stuff. I'm pretty sure of it. But again, this is my takes on it. This is my perspective. I tried to provide the arguments for you guys, and we are through. We got all the cards covered. I'll do a sum up of how I could see some of the early decks that you could play. I do have one deck in mind specifically that might give you an edge in the very first days of when the new expansion hits. That might not be too expensive and stuff like that. So I'll try to do something on that. But generally talking about the Scholomance Academy as an expansion, it seems like it's pushing a lot of stuff. It's doing a lot of things that is somewhat different, and I really like the expansion. So there's been a question asked to me: is it worth investing the gold that you have right now and buying the packs? I think there's going to be so many meta-defining decks with the new cards. Yes, invest your gold in this one. Do what you can with the gold that you do have. But I think also the third expansion of the year is probably also going to be powerful. So generally a recommendation I like to give: when a new expansion hits, do the investment in some card packs with the gold that you do have. I'm not saying that you should spend money or anything. Don't worry about that. But invest so you can actually try and build and use some of the new cards. Also with the duplicate protection that you only get the 2 that you can put in decks. It is not that much of a concern anymore to get packs from a new expansion. And then see if you can stop spending gold until the next expansion. Try saving up the gold until the next expansion hits, and use it for that one when that arrives, because then that will shift the meta around again. So that's that's the recommendation I like to give you guys. Try to do some of the investments that you can right now in getting some packs for this new expansion, and then start saving up for the next one, and then hopefully we'll find a good deck for you guys to climb with when we start the Scholomance Academy expansion when it hits just in a few days. That's it. That was all the cards, and thanks for watching, guys.